you were to name the top 5 misconceptions from Revelation and clear it up, that would help people understand the book of Revelation better, what would they be?
Okay, Buva, I'll trade with you, all right? I'll take the first one.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so I would say the first one is that the book is about you.
Yes.
Top misconception is you read the book of Revelation, or frankly, don't lie to yourself. You didn't even read the frickin' book.
Right, exactly.
You saw it on the Ghostbusters about dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Yep.
And Ernie Hudson on the bridge on the way to New York, or Dan Aykroyd, and you're like, yeah, I know exactly what's going to go down. So here's the thing: that book was not written for you. It was written by Pastor John to churches in Asia Minor. Okay, they passed around as a letter, and it was meant as a book of hope. All right, and so when you see it describe things, and you're looking for yourself in it, you've made a mistake, because that implicitly looks at the people who received the letter and goes, "Not for you, sucker. This was meant for me." Like John had you in mind, and not just like you, but I mean you, like you sitting on your butt somewhere in Indiana, and you're like, "This is definitely for me, and it's for my time." And so everybody, like from 200 AD going forward, has made this mistake at some point or another, and goes, "This must be for me. It's not for you." Now let me say this: it applies to you, but like if the only thing that you think that it speaks about is something that is relevant 2,000 years after it was written, then you totally misunderstand what John was trying to communicate to people who needed hope at the moment. So that's number one.
Number 2, I would jump in, would be your misunderstanding of the concept of a prophecy. You are probably coming at it thinking that prophecy means future talk. It's always stuff that will come to pass eventually, and you think that means that kind of going in line with what Ben was saying, that it only talks about like 2,000 years from now, but like really hammering that thought process home. If you can no longer think of it as prophecy, as in like it's something later on in the future, you can't hold Revelation in the regard that you have. It's impossible to do so. And so you're taking it out of their hands for 2,000 years ago and putting it into yours. It didn't talk about Apache helicopters for a reason. It's not that they were afraid to use that language back then. It's because that didn't exist then, and it meant nothing then. There were no nukes that we should be looking for now that had to do with something then, because it was prophecy. There was nothing into that. It holds no weight whatsoever.
Okay, number 3 for me would be that you're well-intentioned in your understanding of biblical truth, but you believe that something has to be literal to be true. And that is not true. In fact, you don't actually believe that. You just think you believe that.
Right.
David's soul doesn't actually panteth. Right? Pick a psalm, bro. You understand that that psalms, for example, are a way of writing that communicate true things to you using imagery, using metaphor, using simile. Okay, even God Himself, you'll see Yahweh speak in the Bible, and He does this same thing. Okay, He will allow language to breathe a little bit. As you read the book of Revelation, you're presented with a series of like fantastic images. It's apocalyptic writing. That is a genre. It's a specific type of writing. There are other examples. Read Second Esdras, like a lot of Second Temple Judaism writing that will use apocalyptic literature. It's intending to communicate true things, but it's not doing so through literal language.
Right.
Okay? So as you read some of those things, just think of it as a painting. John is painting a picture. He's communicating true things through images and through symbols. And like if there's something in you that rubs against it and goes, oh boy, once you start saying something is symbol, you're calling the Bible not true. That's absolutely wrong. The Bible is completely true. It's true, and it's trying to communicate you ideas, and it's using art and language and metaphor and simile and images and symbols to try to communicate those true things. And just recognize that if you're trying to communicate these otherworldly things from God's perspective, just know that our human language is going to kind of suck at that. And so John is going to stretch that language to its breaking point. He's going to use all kinds of fantastic images and understanding to communicate realities that, again, bring hope to a persecuted people in the first century that should bring hope to you. And so if the first thing that you think about when you think about the book of Revelation is tribulation, although there's a reality to the truth that Revelation is trying to communicate as it regards to those types of things, you're misunderstanding what's trying to communicate, and you're abdicating responsible Bible reading by doing so.
Number 4 is the concept of rapture. I think you're probably getting wrong. If you are looking into happenings, the dealings going on in Revelation, and all the pain and the bad stuff happening, and thinking to yourself, I really hope that I'm a part of the rapture that says that I'll just be sucked up before all this stuff happens, and it's not going to affect me at all. I think you need to take a step back and look at the entirety of Christianity and people being Christ followers. Rarely ever are God's people taken away from the pains that happen here. It just doesn't happen. The people that are followers of the way are given, pain. There are things that are going on here. There are martyrs that are happening. People are being murdered for their faith all over the world, throughout all of time. It's just not a thing to believe in. If you're looking at the context of the Bible, where you think you believe that you understand things that are going on, rarely ever are God's people just saved from that kind of worldly pain. And so, if we're to take from the rest of the story and the rest of humanity and the rest of things that have happened within the people that follow this religion and follow God, we cannot hold true that this rapture is just going to suck us all up, and then the people that are left behind, that concept, are just not the ones that were chosen and are going to be in some pain. There are real things happening to people. This has been going on for thousands of years. Actual trials and actual pain has been happening to martyrs. Even Revelation talks about the martyrs that are underneath the throne room of God, and they're calling out to God, saying, "God, is it time yet? Like, is it? We're chained under here. Is it time yet for you to do this wrath thing, to bring this all out?" And he just goes, "No, not yet. It's not yet time. More people will suffer. More people will hurt." I think it's just out of context for you to believe that the pains that are happening in this kind of book that were relevant 2,000 years ago and aren't some future cataclysmic event that we're waiting for, that we're just going to be completely exempt from it is foolish.
Yeah, and to reinforce that, I would tell you that, and I know you're not doing this on purpose, but there is a level of arrogance that says this must be the biblical tribulation when pain finally shows up at my doorstep.
Right.
When it has existed on others' doorsteps for a very long time.
Especially in America.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, for some reason we believe that when trials and when persecution, which American Christians are the worst at throwing that word around like it's something new, and it's not like something that's been happening for thousands of years. Anything that's happening because of the current government, anything that's happening because of the current social climate to American Western Christians being called the kind of revelatory persecution is arrogance. It's absolute arrogance. There are people that are being murdered throughout the world that has been going on for thousands of years. You cannot call this new pain that you're experiencing because something has infringed upon your absolute freedom as a possible reason to say that revelation is happening.
And so here's the final one I would say, and I suppose this is more related to how you react to it. Is a lot of the folks that I see talk about this, is COVID-19 part of biblical prophecy? Is it are we part of the end times? Blah blah blah. Here's the thing: if you even remotely believe that, like let's hit the fans, man. Like let's knock on the doors. Let's grab and teach good news to absolutely everybody.
Right.
But that's not what I see happening. I see a lot of finger wagging. I see a lot of people go, "This is it. We've brought this upon ourselves by electing Trump. We brought this upon ourselves by allowing Obama to become in. Like, this is stupid. This is foolish." And frankly, even if those were the image that Revelation is trying to communicate, which it isn't, your reaction to those things is absolutely horrendous. It's the exact opposite of what John is calling these folks to do. The prime call in the book of Revelation is for the saints to persevere. For the saints to persevere, and frankly, there are multiple offers in the images that come through Revelation for people to turn and repent, and most of them don't. But there's a glorious time. There's like one time where they do, and like that's the work we're supposed to be involved in. Frankly, that's the reason John wants people to persevere, so the good news will persist, so
right.
The love of Christ will continue to move on, and so. Your shallow reading of the book of Revelation, and here's the deal: smart people who love Jesus disagree with me on how I read the book of Revelation. Fine, I'm all right with that. As frankly, as long as you take away the right output, and if your output is to say, "Oh, at least we get out of here before the trouble starts," that's wrong. That's wrong. It's not even close to right. Our Savior suffered and died. Every one of the disciples also was martyred. And so your thought that the Christian shape of life is that we get to bail before trouble starts as opposed to being the people who are fighting to save those in the midst of trouble, you are just mistaken.
Right.
You're just mistaken. And so even if the theology behind the thing that you believe about Revelation was true, your reaction is not right. It can't be good.
Right.
So I would say if your takeaway from reading the book of Revelation is to look at the world and go, great, now you have what's coming to you. Can you imagine that coming out of the mouth of Jesus? The same Jesus who looks out and goes, forgive them, Lord, for they know not what they do. And you're like, great, now you have what's coming to you. You're a fool. Stop being a fool.
Yeah, if you walk away from the book of Revelation in fear, you're missing it. You're absolutely missing it. I hear too many people that read that book and then walk away afraid of some cataclysmic event that is going to be on a scale that we've never seen before and we'll never see again, and there's going to be, just blood red skies, all this different stuff. We should be fearful of that. Jesus says in the beginning of that book, calling himself the Alpha and the Omega, he's literally in control in all of it. He never loses control once. He never runs out of control. The beings that are in the throne room of God that are all-seeing and all-knowing would in that thought process know about these crazy cataclysmic Armageddon-style events, which, again, you don't understand Armageddon like you think you do if you think it's going to be the Bruce Willis movie in an asteroid.
Not a thing.
I guess. That's not what it is.
It's a location.
It's a location, and if you're waiting for some crazy battle to break out and like all this warfare to happen, you're going to have a lot of build-up to one moment that goes, oh, it's already happened. Look, it doesn't come through that way.
Yahweh says, I'm here.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
over.
He's literally he's Alpha and the Omega, beginning and the end. These beings that are all seeing and all knowing, that therefore know about this cataclysmic event. The only thing that they do in their immense wisdom and omniscience is worship Yahweh in his throne room. That is literally all they do with the wisdom of the entire universe. They go, holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was and is to come. They recognize that through knowing everything, the only thing that has merit, the only thing that has worth, is worship of Yahweh in his throne room at his feet.
That's a great point. I guess I never thought about that. But given that the world with eons of knowledge and all the possibilities, the people in the throne room go, this is all there is. That's all there is to say. They don't try to jazz it up. They don't try to use big flowery language. They're like, holy, holy, holy.
Yep.
This is it. I got this covered. Yeah.
Right.
Those are good takeaways, boys. 5 things to refresh. Here's the thing. I can't remember how many times when I was a younger man, probably from the ages of 10 to 25, and I would drive home at night and it'd be like a harvest red moon. And I'd go, this is it.
This is it.
This is the
I'm
thing.
not ready.
Mike's one of the watchmen on the walls.
I'm not good with the Lord. I have not straightened this out. Right? I had no understanding of Revelation at all. I also actually had no understanding of grace,
right,
or the fact that God was not mad at me all the time. I was almost certain that, based on my behavior for the day, God was upset at me and did not love me until I would show up and do something different and go, hey, here's all the bad crap I did. I hope you can find it to love me again. And like a petulant father that you just could not please. And it was, and you tie that with the threat of a Revelation style apocalypse all the time, and every time even a shade of the moon that would turn slightly pink, I'm like, oh no, but I've not reckoned this. I've not fixed it. And what a misunderstanding of the love and sacrifice of Jesus Christ and Yahweh, right? It's a complete misinterpretation of the way that God is. And if you read the Bible, if you read the Revelation, and it seems like a complete opposite character of the Yahweh that was in the rest of the Bible, then you have to be taking
You're reading
it
wrong. Yes,
right. If God says I am the same always, right, and you go, but you're way different in Revelation.
Yeah,
nope.
John was a pastor of a church for upwards to 90 years now, or 60 years. And had been leading people towards Christ this entire time. He's not randomly going to change his entire character and write this revelatory book, this letter, to the churches in Asia Minor to scare them.
Right.
That makes no sense. He's been calling through multiple publications for the perseverance of the people of God, for the perseverance for Jesus, for the good news to continue to spread, for people to be doing the things that they were called upon by Jesus to do in the beginning, and encouragement for these churches from Asia Minor for years now. He's not just going to randomly be exiled to the Isle of Patmos because they tried to murder him and failed at trying to murder the guy. He's not randomly going to switch his story about Jesus and go, oh, buddy, when I send this to them, they're going to read it and freak.
I told you, I know what Jesus said, but I'm like an uncaged animal.
Right, exactly.
Right, that stuff that Jesus said was it was something. My son just started running his yap, but here's the deal.
Yeah,
I am an unruly beast.
Yeah, the apostles have mainly all been murdered by this point in time or died. Jesus has been gone for a while now, at least up and ascended to heaven. The temple's been destroyed. All of you are in despair and thinking, is there a possibility that God has left us and has lost all of his power? Rome is persecuting us. We are being driven from our homes. Here comes old John from Patmos with a big right hand.
The streets will run red.
Freaking people out,
All
saying
right,
there's a 7-headed dragon coming out of the sea, and you better freak out about it. No.
Now I mean, just to I suppose for balance, I mean, there's totally a sense of justice within the book of Revelation, right? There is a, if you reject God as king, then or Christ as king, then you end up on the other side of him as king. Yes, I mean that is very much described there, but like I think the notion is, as Christians, we're to weep for that,
right?
We're to mourn for that. We're to mourn for persecution that exists. We're to persevere in the face of it. We're to trust that God is just and that the work that he has us to do is right, and it should continue in the midst of anything.
Right.
And there's nothing about any of those situations of which we should fear, which causes fear. In fact, the very thing that we take in as fear is what God intends for hope. And like, if you don't find hope in the fact that God's got this thing under control, even when you don't understand it, like one of the things that the book of Revelation does is it does come back and try to give you a different perspective. It says, look, here's you know what's going on. What's the name of the guy? I think it's chapter 2, who was martyred at the church, one of the 7 churches. I can't remember.
The guy that was martyred?
Yeah. He talks about. John writes about the guy. Oh man,
I have no idea.
Okay, hold on. It may not be necessary to find it. Anyway, the guy had one of these guys in one of the churches had been. He calls him our brother somebody. Anyway, so like that guy died by he roasted in a metal bowl.
Oh yes, I know. I don't know his name, but I know exactly.
Yeah, right. So like, I mean, it's horrific. This guy dies for this type of thing, and people are like, "What the heck is going on? How do I even take this in?" Yeah. And one of the things that John gives you is the chance when he gets taken up into heaven, not a rapture, and certainly not everybody, it's just him.
Yep.
He gets to take a peek into what's going on behind the scenes. And what you see behind the scenes is this notion of constant battle of evil. The presence of evil, the influence of evil, how it presents itself, it's propaganda, it's false prophecy, it's masquerading as true and good religion, as a true and good king when it's not. Like you get to see behind the scenes of evil and how God has it within his control, how he deals with it, and ultimately how it comes to its end. We are to find hope in God's control of those things, not fear because of the events that may surround it. Like that's the mistake. It's supposed to be a book that communicates hope, and if we take away fear, we've missed it.
Yeah, no, I agree entirely.
Hey, and so look, just at all, if you're interested in this, I did do some classes on this. I did I want to say 6 classes on how we should think about the end times, walking through, the everything where as we're talking, you're like, yeah, but what about this? And yeah, but I don't know about that. I covered. I've got a podcast of some teaching that you can hook up with on 6 classes on the end times, and there's 8 classes out there on the Book of Revelation. Okay,
they're good. I've listened to them.
Yeah,
same.
So let's we'll get those out on the social media or whatever. We'll get some links out there so you can go check it out, and then you just listen to you don't have to listen to anything else on the deals. I just stashed stuff out there, but like those were legit. And I think they're pretty helpful, and at least you know where we're coming from. It's biblically grounded. I just don't want to believe this way. I believe it because I walked into to studying the book of Revelation failing on probably all 5 of those things we just talked about.
Yep.
And then on the other side of it, I go, boy, this makes a lot more sense to what Yahweh is trying to communicate, and frankly, how I understand how to read Scripture anyway.